This is the story of a girl who gets separated from her family in childhood. And this is the story of 3 sages who had renounced the world. But through this girl's life, they once again began to feel the pain of the world. It is a tale of love, sacrifice, struggle against injustice, and purity of soul. The story begins in a remote village in North India called Peepal. The village got its name from an ancient peepal tree that had stood there for over 100 years. Under that very tree lived 3 sages, Baba Shankar Giri, Baba Nagnath, and Baba Satyadev. They had renounced the world years ago, one after the death of his wife, one after being cheated in business, and the third simply disillusioned by worldly attachments. They lived peacefully, surviving on alms, meditating, and hardly speaking to anyone. One day, a few children were playing near the forest close to the village. Suddenly, they heard a faint groaning sound from the bushes. When they went closer, they saw a girl of 7 or 8, lying unconscious and covered in blood. The villagers rushed her to the temple nearby, where the 3 sages lived. Baba Satyadev, the softest-hearted among them, immediately began tending to her. He cleaned her, bandaged her wounds, and gently fed her some porridge. When the girl regained consciousness, she uttered only one word, "Ma, Ma," and broke into tears. Slowly, her name and past were discovered. Her name was Gauri. She was the daughter of a poor farmer, but some bandits had attacked the village. Her parents were killed, and Gauri somehow escaped into the forest. The sages were stunned. They had never imagined that a worldly responsibility would re-enter their lives. But now, Gauri had become part of their lives. Gauri began living with them. Baba Shankar Giri started teaching her how to read, count, and shared old stories. Baba Nagnath taught her self-defense, how to use a stick, and how to protect herself from strangers. Baba Satyadev cared for her like a mother, doing her hair, teaching her to cook, listening to her worries. To the villagers, it all felt like a miracle. 3 sages and a little girl? They whispered in wonder. But time passed. Gauri grew up. She was now 13 years old. One rainy night, as thunder cracked and lightning flashed over the forest, some people crept into the village, the same bandits from whom Gauri had once escaped. This time, their target was the temple and the area around the sages, because they had learned that a girl lived there who was actually a princess. Yes, Gauri was not just a farmer's daughter. A wandering monk had revealed months ago that Gauri was the princess of a small kingdom, kidnapped in childhood and somehow ended up with the farmers. It was a stormy night. Lightning flashed across the sky. The wind rang the temple bells on its own. The 3 sages were deep in meditation, and Gauri was inside, reading by lamplight. Suddenly, barking dogs and footsteps outside broke her focus. Gauri became scared. She peeked through the window. Shadows were moving toward the temple. Baba Nagnath, once a soldier, sensed something wrong. He picked up his staff and stepped outside quietly. He woke Baba Shankar Giri and Satyadev. "There's something out there," he whispered. "Be ready." Gauri trembled, but she was no longer the innocent child she once was. She remembered all that Baba Nagnath had taught her. Suddenly, 4 masked bandits jumped over the temple wall. They had daggers, guns, and chains in their hands. They rang the temple bell loudly to grab attention. "Hand over the girl to us," a voice roared. The 3 sages stood their ground. Baba Nagnath struck a bandit's gun down with his staff. Baba Shankar Giri, with his experience, pulled out chili powder from his bag and flung it into their eyes. Gauri kicked one of the bandits in the leg, causing him to fall. But the bandits were strong and outnumbered them. One of them grabbed Gauri and began dragging her outside. Baba Satyadev, the eldest of the 3, ran to stop him. He stepped in front of the bandit's sword, taking the blow to his chest, but managed to free Gauri. Blood poured out, but his eyes held no fear, only love. "The girl must not be harmed," were his last words. Gauri screamed, "Baba!" As soon as the villagers heard about the attack, they beat drums and gathered in force. Hundreds came rushing with sticks, sickles, and torches. Seeing themselves surrounded, the bandits fled. 2 were caught. The rest escaped into the forest. The villagers arrived to see Baba Satyadev's body soaked in blood, and Gauri crying with her head on his chest. The next morning, one of the captured bandits revealed a shocking truth. Gauri was no ordinary girl. She was the rightful heir of a small kingdom called Chandangarh. Gauri's identity had been hidden during a political conspiracy in which her parents were murdered. She was then raised by a farmer's family, who were later killed in the attack. Baba Shankar Giri had already suspected the truth, but had chosen to give Gauri a normal life. Now 14, Gauri began to understand who she really was, but questions haunted her. Can I live a simple life, or must I bear the burden of the kingdom? Baba Nagnath replied, Your life is yours, but sometimes we must stand for others beyond our own pain." Tears in her eyes, Gauri said, "I don't want a kingdom. I just want to stay as your daughter." Baba Shankar Giri embraced her. "We won't ask you to leave, but if the world calls you, if injustice rises, you must stand." Baba Satyadev gave his life not just for you, but for the justice now tied to you. The ashes from Baba Satyadev's pyre were kept near the temple. Every morning, Gauri lit a lamp in his memory and vowed, "Now I must stand against injustice." Baba Nagnath and Shankar Giri warned her, "If you return to your roots, there are many unanswered questions, and dangerous enemies too." But Gauri was no longer the frightened child. She now carried the wisdom of years, the discipline of the sages, and deep inner strength. Chandigarh, the land of her birth, was now ruled by a corrupt minister, Birbhan Singh, who had orchestrated the death of her parents and claimed the throne. He believed the princess was long dead. Gauri took blessings from the sages and formed a small group with villagers, teachers, farmers, women and youth. It wasn't an army, it was a cry for justice. At the gates of Chandigarh, Gauri declared, "I am Gauri, daughter of King Harivarma and Queen Surabhi. I did not fight battles, but I have seen truth, endured sacrifice, and now I demand justice." People were stunned. Tears welled up in the eyes of elders. They recognized the same eyes, the same face, a reflection of the queen. Birbhan Singh first laughed it off, then grew fearful, and then plotted her assassination. When he sent soldiers to kill her, standing beside her appeared Baba Nagnath and Baba Shankar Giri, like ancient mountains rising in defiance. Baba Nagnath said, "You once stole our daughter's parents, now we will take your throne." The villagers, still afraid of Birbhan, now drew strength from Gauri's words and the presence of the sages. Gauri never raised a sword. She presented documents, unearthed history, showed evidence, and revealed Birbhan's past crimes. Village elders and former soldiers testified. A massive people's movement began. Birbhan Singh was captured by his own people and brought before the royal court. In a special session, he was declared guilty and exiled for life. The throne was offered to Gauri, but she declared, "I will not be a queen. I will remain a servant of this land." She opened new schools, built a girls' school in the forest named after Baba Satyadev, and created clinics, shelters, and art centers for the poor. She had 3 statues made, one holding a staff, Baba Nagnath, one in deep meditation, Baba Shankar Giri, one embracing a child, Baba Satyadev. One day, Baba Shankar Giri said to Gauri, "You are now complete. You no longer need us." Baba Nagnath added, "We must return to the forest, for sages live only where their service is complete." Gauri wept, but they told her, "We are not leaving, only changing form. Whenever you stand for justice, we will live within you." The 2 sages walked toward the Himalayas, turned back one last time, and never returned. Gauri was no longer just a girl. She had become the embodiment of struggle, the idol of sacrifice, and the living tale of truth. People say even today, if you find an orphan girl sitting on the temple steps, know that Gauri has returned to shape another life. This story shows that those who sacrifice are never lost. They become immortal. A simple little girl, raised with love and truth, can deliver justice greater than kings. 3 sages who had turned away from the world were moved to embrace it again for the sake of one girl. And the girl who had lost everything became the strength of thousands. If this story touched your heart, give it a like, send it to someone who needs hope, share it. Your thoughts give us strength. Comment below. And for more such stories, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.